For those who don't know, these off the record talks were inspired by a podcast series that we run called Founder Journey, where we go really deep on kind of the lessons that great founders today have learned. It's not a smooth ride, as we know, and not a lot of people like to talk about their success and also like their failures as well. So it's a really great opportunity for other founders to learn from the ones who've done it before and how to take that advice and shape it and use it themselves. So I just want to preface before we start that when I was prepping with Michael and kind of running him through the audience and what the talk's going to look like, I usually will create some kind of a draft or like flow of questions and send it to the speakers. He insisted that he didn't want to see any questions. Anything goes. He wants to help. He wants to give back. So if I don't ask the question you want to know, stand up and ask him afterwards. He is willing to talk about anything, and I just love the energy and the authenticity. So thank you for that. I know the community appreciates it. I will kick it off with my first question for you, which is, you initially had a much different path in mind for yourself. Biochemistry, wanted to be a doctor, very different from what you're doing now. So what was it that made you want to be an entrepreneur, go into entrepreneurship? Especially it's not a steady path. It's not a steady job. It's very high risk. So what was very exciting to you about doing that?
I started my life, my first 10 years of my life at Sick Children's. So I was a very sick child, and I was obsessed with wanting to be a doctor. But that kind of makes sense because you spend your life around doctors. You idolize the situation. And if you've never been a very sick child, it's a very strange thing. Part of you like matures very quickly, and part of you stays a 10-year-old. Some part of you is 18. It's like really weird. You're like, you're a person at a time. It's hard to fit in. It's hard to kind of adjust. I went to, I kind of rushed through high school. I did high school in 4 years, but went back when it was 5 years. I applied to all these universities. Western was the only school that took me. So I went to Western, and I went to Western for biochemistry to, of course, be a doctor. And I worked extraordinarily hard. And, you know, I was a lifeguard and I did all these things, but no matter how hard I worked, I was getting marks that in chemistry that was like in the low 80s, which, you know, it's actually not bad. But, you know, imagine sitting in a room in your third and fourth year with a ton of people, and, you know, they get 96, 98. And there's always this guy named Jonathan. He was really smart, and he would get 102 because he got the bonus mark, right? And like, they were clearly going to med school because that's what we adjusted for at that time. And I clearly got the point that I wouldn't do it. Anyways, I give my thesis in my fourth year chemistry thesis, and I got in front of all these professors, and they kind of male, pale, and stale. They had the glasses at the end of the nose, and they're looking at me, and I'm speaking, and I'm telling them what I've done. And one of them leans forward and goes, "Mr. Hyatt, you should go sell cars. You should get out of school." And essentially, I just looked at it and paused. I'm like, okay. And I kind of got, that was my signal. So I started a software company in the 90s with my brother. And just to describe to you what that's like, he would code. He dropped out of U of T because he had nothing to do. My dad said, if you're going to stay home, you're going to write some software. So he would code, and we were coding a Windows based product for the engineering world. Now, they were using DOS. So he was creating the world's first Windows-based product for engineering risk assessment. Sounds boring, right? But really niche and really interesting. And so he creates it, and we would save it to a disk, this thing called a disk, and then we'd go to this place called the post office, and we'd mail it to you, typically like Texas, right? We'd mail it to you, and then I'd wait 3 days, and then I'd call you 3 days later saying, did you get it? And, oh yeah, I got a package. And then you try to get them to put the discs in the machine, and you try to do a walkthrough on the phone of your product. Right? These things that you think that today are intolerable, suffrages, like intolerable things that you would never put up with, was just the way we did it. Going to a store and buying a CD and putting it into your CD drive, that's how you did it. It sounds to you like that's impossible. That is too much suffering, but that's the way we did things. I assure you, things that you're doing right now in 5 years only are going to be, I can't believe you did that. You got a driver's license and you did this? How did you get from here to Mississauga? Yeah, I mean, unconsciously kind of thing, right? So I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't get there, but then I started a software company. And I think that the short answer is I was always really prone for business. And let me tell you something about people. If you hire somebody they'll always naturally sway to who they are. So if you hire somebody very analytical in marketing, they'll always sway towards analytics in marketing. If you hire somebody, people always have a natural gravity to what they really are. So the question to you is, what are you really, and what's your natural sway? You should only work on that, and you should hire your weaknesses, right? And you should do the things that you find easy that other people find hard. That's following your passion. That's what that actual statement really means. Go ahead.
Okay, so you've established that perhaps medical school is not your route, and you've found the strengths, or they've been identified to you rather that. So from there, like, where does now the idea of, okay, so I know that's not my path, but what am I going to do next? So kind of how did that look, that now you're actually like, okay, now I have to do something with my life. So what does that look like?
There you go. Look, just to be very honest with everybody, like this is like late 90s, the internet's coming about. It looks stupid. Was the internet stupid? It was stupid. It was so weird. It would look like the yellow pages online. It was stupid. Just like things today look stupid, like the early forms of what people are trying to do. You might look at some AI today and think that's stupid. Everything that we start with looks stupid. When we first actually did television shows, we didn't know what to do. So we did what we did on radio shows. The first thing we did on the radio before radio started, we didn't know what to do. So we read newspapers on the radio because that's what we thought we should do. You always do things that you think you should do, and then things change very rapidly, right? What happened to me was I got into business simply because I had no safety net. I had no backup. My family didn't have money. Either we made it or that was it. There was no safety net. And if you really want to hear, and this is going to get recorded on a podcast, I'll really tell you, and I rarely ever speak.
Please do.
But I'm going to tell you something that now will go into memorial and into thing. The real reason why I wanted to make money. And this is the God's honest truth. Besides the fact that I had this insatiable appetite to do that and to do well, fine. I got that. You a lot of have that burning, fine. The truth is I have one kidney. And I thought in my life, I had to get a transplant at some time, and I had to save my own life. And we didn't have money. So I thought sometime in the future, I predicted that I might have to buy a kidney. So what I did is I had to make $250,000 because in my head, I thought I'd have to travel maybe to another country and buy a kidney, because my brothers would have given me their kidney, but I couldn't have lived with that. I just can't do that to my two brothers. I love them. I just couldn't fathom it. So I wanted to make $250,000 in case I had to buy a kidney. That's exactly why I outworked everybody else. I didn't get the highest marks. I was never the fastest. I was never the smartest, but I surely outworked everybody else. And that was the genesis of why I wanted to make money. That was it.
I know, we're like speechless. Thank you. That's
the truth.
That is amazing.
It sounds kind of creepy, but what would you do for your survival if you're trying to push out 20 years in your head?
So just again, this is like, thank you for that. So you have now this, I like that you kind of called out, like, you don't have the best marks, but I think that there's just such a stigma around it's like education sometimes over experience. It's like you have to like hustle to get these grades in order to get anywhere. So for you, just being that you had this like deep ingrained motivation that was very personal to succeed, how would you like perhaps say, like, challenge wise, like all the challenges that you faced like over your career and like getting started, like what are some things that you can share with others who might be just feeling really like defeated or stuck or unsure how to iterate?
I want you all to know something, that I'm a 20-year overnight success. The worst part about me saying that is that I'm a 30-year overnight success now. So I keep it to 20 because it sounds better. To this day, I still get punched in the face very hard. I literally get punched so hard, and my wife has no clue I got punched that day. I never believe my highs, and I don't believe my lows. I just don't believe the press either way. I don't believe the good articles. I don't believe the bad articles. I was just doing an event with someone, like, I'm one of the founding partners of the Creative Destruction Lab, and we started that in Toronto. It's been a raging success. It's the best investment I've ever made, by the way. I donated money. I mean, investment in society. It's much like TechTO getting going and doing these great things. And And I get to work with all these amazing entrepreneurs, and I'll give you an amazing anecdote I can't get out of my head from Dan DeBow, who's a brilliant guy, who's one of the founding partners. And he says, what I do, he came up with this way to explain to you the most important thing, which is product market fit. That's the most important thing, right? We all know that. So what he does, he plays a 6-minute video, and he makes you sit there of a guy with a hammer hitting a stone. And it's so painful to watch. And you don't know when it's going to end. You don't know when the video is going to end. And on minute 6, it cracks. That's product market fit. And isn't that brilliant? That's Dan's idea, not mine. So I want to make sure we all credit him for that. But I think that nails what it's like, right? Everything is about product market fit. What is the best product market fit you've ever seen? The iPhone? OpenAI? In Canada, Shopify for sure. Like, Shopify nailed product market fit. No, they're product geniuses, right? That thing's a product genius, right? That whole company. So, like, when you look at things that win and come into your life like OpenAI and you use it, it was like the perfect product market fit. And people are still working out that product, by the way. And where this is going in the next 5 years is astounding. At the Creative Destruction Lab, we just had a meeting this week. We call it the Fast Five, not the Fast Five companies. I'm going to tell you something. The next 5 years are going to be the fastest 5 years in human history, where we're going to move 20,000 years of our past in 5 years. It's astounding how fast things are moving.
So I just wanted to do a quick follow-up question about product market fit.
Not about the kidney.
Not about kidney. So it's product market fit is such a huge theme that we see at Fuck Up Nights. That's where a lot of failure happens and people go kind of, down the road with a bad product market fit. What advice do you have to founders that maybe aren't finding the right product market fit? How do you, decide to pivot, and how do you go about it?
You don't matter. I don't matter. Your investors actually don't matter. All that matters is the client buys your thing. Okay, so when you sell a product to a client, you are not competing against your competitors. You are competing against everything they have to buy that quarter. If I take somebody who's got a pain in their company, they have a problem, and I run them through an MRI, and I look at their brain signals, and then I give them Advil. It literally, product market fit and the decrease in the solution and Advil have the same effect on the human brain. Meaning that if your solution isn't the Advil for them in that headache situation, it's not right. And they don't really care about you, your cool startup, your cool AI. They care that you solve something for them so they look better and they solve a problem in their company, because they're usually navel gazing and pushing up, saying, I solved this problem, right? And okay, and this is how I can tell if you have a product. If I take your early product and I give it to a bunch of people and they get using it, and then I call up and say, hey, we need to take that back now. We got to pull it back. If everybody goes, oh, okay, it was good. Okay, then you're done, because that's a 7 out of 10. You can't win on that. It has to be like, what do you mean you're taking that away? How do I heat my food anymore without the microwave? Like, if I just took your favorite AI, like that you ask questions to all day, like OpenAI, maybe it's that, maybe it's Anthropic, maybe it's Claude, maybe it's Cohere, right? If I take that away from you today, that'll piss you off. If I take away your iPhone, maybe you like Android, but it'll piss you off, right? Because you have such a product market fit to it. But if I take away your early product from somebody, are they upset, or are they like, nah, okay? And it is the winners. I think Andreessen Horowitz has a very specific post on this, and it's part 4 of a post they made in 2007. That product market fit is everything, and basically it's all about having more demand than you have supply. Now, that's not imaginable in software sometimes, but you need to have a pull of your product. Right? Everything you can imagine right now, OpenAI, Shopify, the iPhone, all that stuff is pulled. Pull. It's not push. It was pushed for a bit until they got it right.
So I love the just kind of like you're so excited and just like very like passionate about obviously like people building here today and just like what founders can be doing and how they can better take advantage of, like, first of all, just even building in Canada. So gonna get you to put like your investor hat on for a second here.
Yeah.
What right now, because I know you see thousands of pitches and ideas and products and businesses and so on and so forth. What makes you, as someone that is investing back into this ecosystem and back into technology, what's making you really excited? And where would you like founders to maybe be focusing more?
So I bet on the jockey, not the horse, in the sense that I bet on the person in a great market, but I bet the bet on everybody early stage. So, okay, if you want to be a good entrepreneur, just stop for a second. I want everybody to put your hat on. Let's say you all have $1 million to invest today. You need to start thinking about being an investor if you want to be an entrepreneur. Why would you give anybody any money? You ain't giving anybody your money. Give me 100 grand. Give me that's, when it's your money now, oh, it's different. You become a capitalist really quickly. And what do you want? What do you want to see? Okay, so what do we really look for? We look for someone that we can work with, it is going to be malleable, that knows how to pivot. If I invest in your company today, I guarantee 100% of you are wrong. You're either wrong by 3% or 30% or 180 degrees, whatever, but you're going to be wrong. I'm betting on your ability to pivot. Here's a great example. I invested in the only student, I think maybe other people have done it now, in the CDL. I invested in this guy, Mark Ang, 8 years ago. He was so young, he wasn't able to rent a car, and I had to sign for it. And he's brilliant, way beyond his years, but he started off as Second Closet. Do you remember Second Closet? The yellow signs in the subway where he would make you store your stuff, like he was kind of an Uber for storage, right? And it was going, but he realized he can't make enough money storing the canoes and the bikes. So he pivoted to business, B2B, storage and delivery. And then he started to drop all his assets into an asset light version where the gross margins went up. Those are double pivots. When I met him, he said to me, "What do you think of my company?" I said, "You're never going to cross a valuation of 50 million." And I was kind of right, because it was B2C. It was like storing canoes and stuff. I thought it was cute, but I said, "You're going to do well, but let's do this together." His pivot made him massive, but the pivot, I was betting on this young man's ability to pivot. So I'm betting on your ability to pivot in a big market. Now, the truth is, fantastic entrepreneurs, and Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger talked about this, so follow them. They're way smarter than me. Great entrepreneurs in a bad market will generally always fail. And you'll always be confined by that market. $10 million of revenue in a massive market and $10 million in a tiny $100 million market are not the same valuations, even at the same gross margins, even at particularly the same growth rate. Does that make sense? Like quality of revenue in the size of the market. Like when you in tech, if you have $10 million of cybersecurity SaaS revenue with patents, that's like top of the food chain. Bad guys need jobs. Cyber's never going away. It's a never-ending story. Ain't no bank turning off cybersecurity anytime soon, right? Empty hole. You can't even fill the hole, right? $10 million in a small arcane HR market corner of that, or just like, let's say you're doing something just in HR, just in Canada, just for this. You see, you collapsed it, so it's not the same thing. So you have to be very mindful of what you're building and how you're building it and what's important. If you're a great entrepreneur, you need to be in a great market to take that. And I think most people would say you have to be very ambitious in that market to win that market or do really well.
So thank you. What is something that you hate seeing from entrepreneurs and founders? And the answers vary, and I find them very interesting. What certain investors, or even just as a builder yourself, like what do you go like, this is just a huge missed opportunity or error or red flag, or just, you're really missing the mark on this? And it could be anything from maybe not product market fit. We
Early
talked
stage
about
or
it.
late?
At any stage, like what's something you just consistently see that you're like, it drives me crazy?
If it's early stage and I feel like I can't work with the founder, by the way, the highest form of communication you have is your feelings. When you walk into a room, you have a gut feeling. That's probably one of the highest form of communications you have. You have it for a reason. We have it as this human species for a reason. If I don't feel I can work with them, if I can't be stuck with you at an airport for 4 hours, I'm not going to work with you. I just don't want to do it. I'm also getting older and I'm just too tired to listen to this, right? Because if I invest in your company, I have to have 10,000 coffees with you. That's a lot of coffee. I have to strap on for 10 years with you. right? That's getting a little hard, right? So that's one thing. Late stage, that's early stage. And I get the hubris at early stage, like, I know better and I don't have to listen to you. And like, they'll say like, oh, I heard what you say, but I have this theory. It's like, I don't mind debating, but at some point I'm like, people like, I'm just going to run up Mount Everest. And I'm like, why don't we get at base camp 1? Do you know why we go to base camp 1, 2, 3, 4? Anybody know why anybody does base camps at Mount Everest? Because you die if you run up the hill. Generally, unless you're a Sherpa and you've done it a lot of times, you die because you haven't acclimated. Maybe it's okay to go to base camp 1. You ever hear the Lotus Esprit that was the first Tesla? Right? Base camp 1. And I sat in there with my brother in the Lotus, and our shoulders were touching. I'm a big guy. My brother's bigger, but it was kind of uncomfortable. I couldn't tell when I met Elon Musk and sitting in that car in 2008, when I'm there in Palo Alto with him and at this event, like, he's a very nice guy and it was a very cool car, but it was just that. It was a cool little toy. And I understand why GM and Ford didn't take him seriously, because it was a Lotus Esprit, didn't make any sense. But exponentially, it makes a lot of sense. But he started somewhere. He didn't just say, here is the Tesla 3, right? He knew that what he was making, by the way. He just knew he didn't have the battery technology, the manufacturing, the backing yet. But he knew, right? And that was the brilliance. Late stage.
Yep.
The problem is when I see a company in trouble in Toronto, I ask one question always. Where was the board? Like, how long did you believe in what the founder was telling you for too long? Why did you burn $3-4 million a month? Like, why did you do that? Like, why didn't you put there's this kind of, look, can I just say something else here? Like, if you were a founder between 2010 and the year 2020, you were really fooled. Because if you were a CEO in those 10 years, you had 0% interest rate, and you went out there and you're like, I got a mortgage for 1.8%. Maybe it's a bit high. Is it too high? No. You had 0% interest rates. You could raise, in 2010 to 2020, you could raise money anywhere. The money flows from the top, right? Money flows from the top, pension funds, everything coming in, push money in the market, push it in, right? 0% interest rates, money coming in. They were job owning the market. They were pushing it. Inflation happens, and you guys are talking about wildly high interest rates right now. Do you know what the interest rate is right now? Reverted to the mean. Right now, this hard market you're experiencing, this is the average market. This ain't a crisis market. This 4 or 5% 10-year note, which is the risk-free money, this is what we call normal since World War II. This is the normal price of money. Make sense? So there was a dislocation there. So I think people always have this idea. One, I always get another round because my investors won't let me go. Bank will never call my debt. Yeah, they will. Right? I'll never get fired. Yeah, you will. My common shares will never get crushed. Yeah, they will. And what I feel I'm so angry about, when I say angry, is that I know how hard these entrepreneurs have worked for 10 years and they lose their company, or they sell their company for $200 million and they get literally zero because the $200 million went to the pref shareholders. And we herald these people as successes, but they got nothing for 10 years. And it's, where was the board? Where was the decision-making process? Why did we let that happen? So I get personally frustrated at those levels, right? And like 18 months ago, I always ask these guys or ladies, if I dialed you back 18 months, what would you have done differently, right? And I think they would have, let more people go, readjusted their margins, understood their business model doesn't work. You can't have a negative gross margin, right? Sorry, I'm ranting, but you can see the passion because I get upset about it because I feel like there's companies that have died in Toronto that we could have saved, right?
No, the idea is that you're doing all the talking. This is great. So just something I want to circle back on really quick, because at the beginning, I kind of love that you called out how it's like the concept of you're basically tapping into something as an entrepreneur that just does not exist. So it's like finding, like, how do you make people understand if something's going to be successful? Like the concept of Uber, it's like we're told our whole lives, don't get into a stranger's car. And that's literally the business model and the entire concept of Uber. So it's very, first of all, hard to perhaps even get like investors on board with something they're like, this sounds crazy, but let alone get customers. So what's some like maybe key points or successes that you would want to share with this room of people that it's like you're just up against a wall, but how do you kind of break through and maybe approach, like you're breaking into a new market, but what's some success
Yeah,
tactics?
But even Uber, what people don't know is he had one BlackBerry, Travis Klatnick, and he had a couple failed businesses before, which made him resilient, which is wonderful. And that guy in particular is what I would call savage level business. And this guy, business model was literally, I don't care about your municipal laws, damn the torpedoes. That guy, I got to tell you, had balls. Amazing. This guy had one BlackBerry. He gave it to one limo driver because he couldn't get and he would call it, and he would text the guy, and the guy would come. And then his friend started saying, hey, do you have that limo driver? Can I text him too? And that was the genesis, the very first Uber, because he realized his friends wanted it naturally. There was pull. So even as wild as it sounded and as strange as it sounded, he had pull early, right? The funny thing about Airbnb is that they had such a hard time raising money at 4 or 5 million, something like that. The story was crazy. Do you hear the story about these guys? They actually went to see an investor. They all sit down at the table, and the guy, they said he ordered like a strawberry daiquiri or something. They saw a little thing, and the strawberry daiquiri comes, he sits down, and they said, so our idea is basically we're going to let everybody rent out their homes and people sleep in people's beds in their homes. The guy looks at him and says, one sec. He leaves to go to the bathroom. Guy never came back. That's a true story. And so people it's a very hard time seeing. But the funny thing about it, when you think about it, is that everybody's like, who's going to sleep in somebody else's bed? But who's ever stayed in a Marriott or a Hilton? What are you sleeping in? Yeah. Right? Now you're not going to stay in a hotel. But look, for all it's worth, it's hard to see things coming. We are very bad at seeing exponential change, which, by the way, in the next 5 years, you're going to see more than ever. There's two things that are transformative in the next 5 years that changes the landscape for us. One is the possibility of superintelligence. The second is the possibility of full quantum computing. Those two combined is a keg of dynamite. I don't know what's going to happen. I literally cannot predict it, but I can predict it's something we can't understand, right? Yet.
So change is really the only constant in entrepreneurship and like being a founder. I'm curious if there was ever a change or a trend or something that caught you off guard.
Wow. Yeah, Bitcoin. I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and I bought it and I sold it and I bought it and I sold it and I still have it. I still think it's useless, but I keep making money on it. I still think it's something stupid because like 3,000 people can manipulate it in the world. Imagine if 3,000 people can manipulate the US dollar or the gold base. That doesn't make any sense to me. I still think cryptocurrency in general is a little silly. Now, there's people that on the other side are like, Michael, you don't understand. It's assets, it's this, it's that. I understand this stuff fully. Although I'll remind you that the US dollar is backed by America, like literally 12 super aircraft carriers, the most, like the actual land, the $27 trillion economy, there's something backing it. So though most people out here, you guys, I love this crypto or Solana or whatever, fine. I still don't get it. But I don't get it, but I have it. It's a trade. I was just, another one that's funny. I was with the CEO of Shopify, Toby, yesterday, 2 days ago. And then his chief of staff was there, and she says, you two met in like 2010 at a C100 event in the Valley, and I interviewed you both. I'm like, no, I completely don't remember. He kind of remembered, but I was like, I don't know. It was a day round. Like we couldn't see it. You can't see the most incredible things in front of you. Like someone here could literally have $100 billion business, and it's you don't know, right? It's an amazing thing.
I heard this question actually at an event the other day, and it's a simple enough question, but it was pretty amazing how difficult it was for people to actually answer, because I don't think that there's actually a straight answer. No answer will be the same. But let's say you just have this great idea. You've done nothing with it, nothing at all. It's something you're like, it's a problem that I'm seeing. It's a problem I have. Now I want to build something. What literally does step one look like for someone who do they talk to someone? Do they get people on board to build it? Or do they have to kind of conceptualize a product first and then go beyond with it? What would be your advice?
I think you have to do some type of early stage product, mock it up and try to use it yourself and try to digest it. If the interesting thing today is that you theoretically could build stuff without a technical sidekick because of the way Cursor and all these products are working and where it's going. I think everybody should digest their own product and like it. See, the way to build a company is this. You're in the accounting space, but you notice this one thing is happening all the time and it's killing all of us. So you develop the product for it and it's working. And somebody says, hey, how did you solve that? I said, I use this and I built this app and now it does it all automated. Can I use it? Yeah. Just like the BlackBerry with Uber in the early days. Here, try it. And once you're passing it around and everybody goes, hey, it's solving my problem, you probably have the product. right? So people that start companies, like, again, I keep going back to Shopify, but he started that because he was trying to buy a surfboard, couldn't do it, and same thing, right? Like, they started these companies out of necessity, out of a genesis of necessity, which is the mother all of invention, right? So you needed it, and then your step one was to try to build some quasi version of it and to see if other people need it too. And you'll find out really quickly, build it, and then basically, can I give some advice from friends and family? I think friends or family are really, really bad and really, really poor indicators, because you're going to go, hey, I just built this new app and it does da 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 da. It's plays a clock radio with a rubber ducky in the bathtub, and they go, they're amazing. It's so nice. Oh my God, you're so good. You're the next Steve Jobs. It's so good. Keep going. Okay, so try this. Say, oh, do you like the product? Oh my God, it's amazing. Great. Can you? I'm asking everybody in the family to give me 10 grand each. You'll find out real fast if they like your product. Ask them for 10 grand each, right? It's interesting. So I think they're bad indicators. It's better to pay people randomly at Starbucks to look at your product. Say, look, if you just sit down and review my product, I'll give you $20, I'll buy you a latte, whatever. And it'd be better, and just say, I want you to be as brutal as you can. They're not connected to you, they don't know you, and they're just gonna leave. That would be a better way to do it.
Last couple questions, because this is really important. I want to make sure that all of you have the opportunity to ask whatever you want to Michael. Customer feedback and being customer centric, obviously completely crucial to the success or failure of any business. I've heard really great tactics to approaching customer feedback and to implementing customer feedback. What's been like something really great you've seen, or a really great way in which someone utilized their customers to expand and just build their product and completely accelerate the trajectory of it?
So I'm a little bit jaded by this. I think there's a funny statement in the entrepreneur world called buyers are liars, in the sense that if you just go to your buyer and you say, what do you want? They tell you, you build it, and then they don't want it. So who's experienced that? Yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding. I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. I think it's more about very deep discovery with the client and try to ask the question, why? And sometimes if you're selling to the CISO, you probably shouldn't. You should probably sell to the people that are doing the work underneath that actually will want to use it and change it. You really have to get very, very deep if you're going to commit product time to something to get the market fit. Sometimes I think people will placate you and tell you they'll love it. Like, and when you build it, they'll buy it. And then you build it, they don't come. So I think it's a very tricky thing. We have a data security company right now that I bought the business 18 months ago, and we're doing a new product line because the client has asked us to, and they're giving us a PO, and we're doing it for them to solve a problem they have that they asked us to do. And we did analysis of the market, and we think that other people will buy it. So we're getting paid to do it. It made sense. They want it. There's scope, and they're willing to keep it for at least 3 years. And we, it wasn't a one-off. So that's an indication that it's maybe something.
Yeah, so resilience and working through failure is such a major part of entrepreneurship. And you mentioned that you get punched in the face all the time. What's worked for you from a mental health perspective, to keep going and to keep the resilience all these years with high growth companies?
I think that you have to start by accepting that that's how the game is played. That if you're not okay with losing, then you shouldn't be in this game. This is a very hard game. One of the things that annoys me is that we talk about when I was in entrepreneurship early, it was like, you mean unemployed? Is that what you mean? Like, who wants this dirty word? Yeah, you have no job and you must couldn't get a job at the bank, so you're an entrepreneur. Yeah, go build something. Good luck. But I think that the real truth of it is that very few people, and actually you are few people, I mean that, in our country should be entrepreneurs, because it's very, very mentally difficult. It's very difficult going down a tunnel, and I'm telling you to get to the white light, but you don't know when that white light's coming, or like Dan's idea of breaking that rock, you don't know what minute it cracks. You don't know what minute it cracks. Be easy video to watch if you knew what minute it cracked, right? But you don't. Maybe there's no light. And I had relationship troubles. I got married late. I had kids late. I went through, this is very personal, so I'll say it because why not? But I went through relationships because I never felt the other person understood how difficult my life was. I couldn't explain it. Like I would be coming home devastated and they'd be like, well, what's for dinner? Did you cook? And I'm just like, I don't even know where I am. And I felt, it was a horribly hard path. I built and sold many companies and the paths were all very difficult. There was never an easy way to it. And if you think raising money is hard, try selling a company. It's like 10 times harder because that process is incredibly like you're getting, heavily inspected at an airport. So, you have to be so resilient. So one thing I did do, I find something that takes my mind off of it. So I play a lot of chess. And why do I play chess? And why did I get addicted to it? I love chess. I got to know all the top players in the world, like the guys, and I go see them, and the reason I'm not that good at it, I'm an okay club player. The reason I do it is like when I start playing chess, I haven't thought about anything else once I'm into the game because it's so hard. I find it so hard, and I find out I'm pretty bad at it, but I'm relatively bad, but like. It's something that obsesses me. It has all the things I like, a winner and a loser and a strategy, and it's a war, it's a battle. So it keeps me going. But it was a way for me to do something without just getting obsessed with the business all the time. So I found an outlet, and everybody does. I think that you were telling me your co-founders triathlons now, which is brilliant. Like you got to find something where your mind doesn't go to just business. It's very, very difficult.
The narrative around building in Canada, especially for founders, has been negative in like recent years, and it's a very daunting concept. For we're not seen as this great tech hub and full of resources to be building here, but obviously we've seen a change or starting to see a change in that narrative. But what can you say to just assure, give some positivity to everyone that wants to build here? Like, why is it a great time to be building in Canada?
I'll be honest. I find Canada is put itself in a bad position in the past 10 years. We were doing things like trying to raise taxes. We had a bad immigration policy, bad housing policy. We say, come to this country. I'm an immigrant to this country, but oh, by the way, you can't buy a house and peanut butter's $10. And like, it was a bit of a lie. And it really frustrated me because let me tell you something about our country. Our country is good on a bad day. It's just good on a bad day. You pick the worst day of Canada and it's still a good country. Yeah, we're great. And the thing is that this country can really, really be a hotspot if we do some very core things. We've met with the ministers. Look, I was not a fan of the last administration. I've been very public about that, but I'll tell you something. I really hope for our Prime Minister's success. I hope he's running this like a business. I think he is. I really, really hope for Carney's success. And what I want him to do is get trade going, get interprovincial trade going, keep taxes lower. How about we have a founders visa, something like if you've raised money and you have a company with revenue, you can get here in 14 days and bring your business here, right? Think about how much we pay people in tech. 2 to 3x more than the automotive industry. We pay people so much money in this industry, right? There's something called QSBS, this qualified small business stock in the US, which means they get $10 million of capital gains exemption per company they sell. Per company, right? Taxes and people are fluid. It just goes where it wants to go. We can put our taxes wherever we want, but people just won't stay here, right? As great as this country is. So we need to set up a playing field where we make it extremely easy to get here, start a company, and we tell you, yeah, we want you to do real well. We got to get away as Canadians, this idea that if someone gets rich or someone does well in this country, it's a bad thing. We have this weird thing. It's like, why can't we celebrate success of these people? We herald Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all these people in statue, and they've done so well. But in here, it's almost like we want to punish people who've done well, right? And it's not right. And those administrations are doing it. And they were saying that with the last trying to increase the inclusion on the capital gains. I think they've taken that off the table. But I think they should go further. I think they should make it dramatically less for the first 10 million or so to get you to start a company here. Because if you start a company here, you hire 10 people. That's huge for our tax base. We're a very small country. We're geographically big, but we're very small. We have smaller GDP than California. Smaller than California. We have a minor currency. We're generally addicted to oil and gas. And the new economy is coming. I mean, let me just tell you, we're the godfathers. We're the inventors. We're the early inventors of artificial intelligence. Jeff Hinton, Creative Destruction Lab, U of T, that's the genesis. Do we let that go? Or do we get people to come here, build companies, do the things you're doing? Well, we need help to do that, right? We don't want to tell people, well, you can start something here. You get no advantage whatsoever. You can't buy a house. You can't get a doctor. But, come here. It's great.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it, right?
as you said, we don't do a great job as Canadians sharing our stories and those success stories. That's why things like this are really great, because you can learn from, as you do all the time with fuck up nights, failures and also successes. We're a community, we're an ecosystem, and we need to be in this together. Any final questions on your end before we open it up, Marsha?
No, I just want to say thank you for being so open. That was incredible. And I'm sure we have some really amazing questions from the audience.
Yeah. So please, there's a mic that's getting passed around. Hand up nice and high, and we'll run the mic.
No hard questions, only easy ones.
Ask whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for this great talk. So our platform connects researchers with industry. And you've mentioned, Michael, that sometimes, you need to have a poll, like it needs to be very natural. But what happens when your clients actually don't understand that they actually would, get a lot of value out of a product? So I'll give an example. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, was traditionally a B2B. It was only when their head researcher actually found a great solution for a problem they were having that they really discovered a new market. So sometimes you don't even know what value, for example, could come from very niche expertise, specifically, for example, AI research. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, kind of do that matching. But how do you tell the story when they don't even understand what kind of value it can bring? I hope my question is clear.
So the truth, you want the real answer?
Yes.
You're wrong. And the thing is that if the client doesn't immediately see it, they haven't prioritized the pain. You're close. It sounds like just my gut feeling is that you're close, but you're not there. And if your quote, my client doesn't get it and they're gonna not bright enough, they don't understand our brilliance, it's because humans aren't better than any other. One of the reasons we're so successful as a species, we cooperate, we tell stories. Everything we do is a story. The story you're telling doesn't resonate with them or their priorities. If I told you a story that every time you sat in this chair, no matter what, just this chair, you would look 10 years younger, you would pay anything for this chair, right? Because the story makes sense now because the value is there in the silly analogy that I'm giving. But you're not connecting as well as you think you are with that client. You need to take the blame and figure that part out.
So is it not just product market fit? It's also like messaging fit? It's also the messaging.
But again, you just rolled back saying, I think what you just said was my product fits, they just don't understand it. It could be, but something's not resonating. And it's because your story doesn't hit their priority list. They can only buy 5 things a quarter, and you haven't gotten to the top 5, no matter how smart you are and how right you are. But then if you're right, then if you went to 10 companies, 1 or 2 should naturally buy it and see your brilliance, and then it could roll out, right? So if you're hearing the same everywhere, you're not right. Start with the preposition that you're not right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, a few. Awesome.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for the talk. About Canada. This is my 4th country that I'm living. I tell you, it's the best country that I've lived on. I lived in Sweden, Italy, Albania, where I'm originally from. So we should really respect Canada. I do share your thoughts about Canada not being the greatest in AI, in manufacturing especially. I moved here because of AI. I was doing AI. Europe was very slow. We couldn't get fucking data. So I said, okay, let's move to North America where they have better data.
Well, welcome. We want you and a lot more people like you. Thank you. Thanks for choosing Canada.
Yeah. So another question about is I told you to share your view about the next 5 years in AI, and I would like to dig a bit more down. What I'm trying to build something for basically help fix physical AI problems. What I mean with physical AI, I see AI is going to switch from plain cloud software running into robots, basically. So the goal is here. How do you see that evolving? How do you see AI being moved actually from running in a cloud somewhere to having running into robots in our everyday life? When do you see that time will come? And is this? Do you
so it's funny you ask me that, because I'll tell you a very strange story. It's something I just experienced at the CDL that I wasn't going to bring up that kind of made me fall back in my chair. So part of the Fast 5 in the Fast 5 years, and I hope I'm saying this correctly because, again, this is being published, but one of the researchers I was speaking to, a very well-known one, a Canadian researcher in quantum, was taking, I'll give you an example of how what I'm going to say is going to sound crazy until crazy becomes something, okay? Because that's what we're really talking about today. when we started looking at AI in 2015, it was these really smart guys with funny hats and Duck Dynasty beards giving us lectures. And I'm like, these guys are crazy, but they're really smart. Like, oh my God, I better listen. You know, you just have that feeling that you better listen. And what they were telling us has happened, but we thought it would probably happen, but we thought they were a little nuts. And what was crazy 5 years ago is like, you're doing it now on your phone. Okay. What they said to me 2 days ago. What this researcher said, to answer your question, I'll give you an example. She would take AI, and they're using supervised learning, using LLMs, right? There's supervised and there's reinforced learning. That's what ChatGPT is, supervised, right? So basically, that's working on a robot. She's adding quantum to it because her theory is quantum is actually the closest form to getting to human consciousness. So she was making the theory that our consciousness is really more of not an hallucination, but the universe and the way we see consciousness is actually a quantum state, not a kind of an analog state, if I can make the comparison. She is trying to take quantum from specifically D-Wave, put it into the robot to make the robot sentient. Crazy, right? Is it? Is it? I don't know. But this researcher is very well respected, and she's an order of magnitude smarter than me. And she showed us a video of it just starting to work, where the quantum state was doing something different to the brain of this robot. And if she's right, in 5 years. But the problem is, who's seen Will Smith eating spaghetti, the video? Look at 2023, 2024, 2025. 2023, it looks like you can't even tell it's Will Smith. It looks creepy and weird. 2024, come see, come ça. 2025, it's like, whoa, VO3. It's kind of him. Don't look at the spaghetti eating. Look at the differential in spaghetti eating in 1 year. Now, I push out spaghetti eating 1 year, 10x, 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 to your point, and where you're going probably is maybe two things happen in 5 years. Quantum first becomes a real reality, combined with a supernova explosion of superintelligence, and we get something that we don't understand, and robots become somewhat sentient. Is it real? I don't know. Right? It explores consciousness. It'll re-examine everything we think about ourselves. What I do know, by 2030, shit is going to get real, and it's going to be very different. And I don't know, you will see trillion-dollar companies that have just started, maybe even this year, and you can't see it coming. Right? I assure you, the only thing that will happen is something you can't see coming.
Another thing, just to follow up, what do you suggest for us as founders to prepare for this future? What is the best?
You can't prepare. All you can do is get away from, you got to start playing into the AI and stop trying to tinker with it and make it actually AI native. If you're starting a company today and you are not AI native, I don't think you can survive it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because
native, meaning that like if the AI can't do it, hire the human, but only if the AI can't do it. Because you can't keep up, right? Like, how are you using Cursor and everything else and those type of products? Like, again, I'm getting out of my depth, but I don't think you can survive as a non-AI native company within 5 years.
Okay, well,
You can become really important, more important.
No,
Stick around.
I totally agree. I've been doing, and there is a lot of AI buzzwords right now. I've been doing AI 2012 using ML models to predict buses are gonna fail.
Sure.
So I totally agree with that. And now it's actually what we are seeing now. It's everyone has to be AI native, and
yeah, that's the starting point. And you're still gonna fail. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll take a couple more questions.
Hi, thanks a lot, and really appreciate this this conversation. So a question, I'm kind of preaching to converted and asking converted, given you guys do in-person events, but what do you think the idea of community, people getting together, that sort of scene is a big thing. How does that work with tech? We have events like this, we're coming, we're asking you questions, we like the engagement. Is this forum going to continue, or is there a way of bringing tech in, and I'm not talking about Zoom or Teams, but is there a thing in marrying, or do you think this will always be sort of analog, that we'll talk about the high, quantum computing, et cetera, et cetera?
Can I watch this? Okay, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to give you the history of humans for 1 second to show you. Hi, I'm 15 million years ago. I am the ancestor, the cousin of an ape. Now, we split off from apes 15 million years. We're not related to apes in the sense that we're apes, but we had a common ancestor 50 million years ago. We move up to 5 million years ago, up to Pithecanthus. We start, we're walking around in Africa, and not always walking, but then we get to Homo erectus, which is upright man, Homo erectus, and then we get to Homo habilis. I'm a Homo habilis now. 50 million years, I'm 1 million years ago, I'm Homo habilis. I'm using handyman, I'm using tools. I'm using tools in Africa. 800,000 years ago, does anybody know what happened 800,000 years ago? There was a calamity on this planet Earth that was so bad, there was 1,280 humans left. All of us, by the way, all of us are related to 1,280 humans, 1,300 humans from 800,000 years ago. Did you know that? Our gene pool was this, and we're almost sliced off this earth. Okay? 1,300 of us. Okay. I'm now pushing forward. I'm 100,000 years ago. We're leaving Africa now. I'm modern Homo sapien. I'm a modern Homo sapien. I'm a hunter-gatherer. I forage, I hunter-gather, right? And now I'm going to jump forward all the way to we started to become farmers 10,000 years. I'm 10,000 years ago now. I'm almost off the carpet. But I'm not done. I'm almost off the carpet, and it's 10,000 years ago. We started to settle. We made farms. Wheat and potatoes domesticated us. We didn't domesticate them. Now we're sticking around. And then 203 years ago, hi, I'm James Watt. I just tweaked the steam engine, invented the Industrial Revolution, the year 1790, and then the economy creates. Ready? 160 years, we land on the moon in a toaster. 10 more years, we invent the internet. 10 more years, we take CRISPR-Cas9, we cut out HIV at a rat. You see what just happened? 15 million years, right? 100,010, right? And then in 200 years, we land on the moon. You see how fast things are going? And it's even going faster now. Now we're going like this. But you know what's interesting about us? And you know why this thing's going to keep going? Because of this. 100,000 years ago, we're modern Homo sapiens. Guess what? Your genetics, the way you store fat, the way you eat, pretty much the same. The reason why you are going to want a real estate agent still for your house isn't because AI can't do it better. It's emotional. You're still genetically 100,000 years old. You think you don't need one, but you do. The reason why you're not going to let the robot tell you how it's going to cure cancer, you're going to want a doctor sitting there explaining the robot. It's emotional. You feel it. We're still the same human 100,000 years ago. So biologically, we run from our past, but there's things that are just physical about us until we augment our DNA, which is probably coming, and we implant Neuralink chips in us, which is coming, by the way. They were there a couple days ago. That's a whole other story. We are basically the same creature. So we will want to get together. We want to tell stories. We want to talk about events. We want to do what we're doing now. It's not going to change. Sorry for the long diatribe, but if you think about it that way, it'll process.
We also want to talk to Michael and people and not a ChatGPT or an AI. It's just not going to give us the same.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, we'll take one more question, but Michael will hang around for a little bit too, so you can see him after Eva's talk. So one more question.
Hello, thank you. So my question is, there is a lot of MLL models that are created, but what do you think about companies that are using AI as applied AI? Will they survive in the next years, or they're
give me an example?
Companies that are not creating their own MLLs, but implementing MMOs as a product.
You're writing a layer above it and using it? Correct. I think that's the only way to go. I think trying to get into the LLM model business right now is probably something that's being sewn up. I mean, $40 billion a year or whatever at OpenAI, you're not going to catch up. Cohere, and Anthropic and the right Mistral, you're not going to catch up to that. You should be running the race of trying to make it super useful for something that solves a pain in the enterprise. I don't think it's worth going to the LM space. I mean, unless you have, hundreds of billions of dollars, or you're, I doubt it. I don't even think today, if IBM started on it today, I think they would lose.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for your just enthusiasm, transparency, and just everything you're doing for the ecosystem as well. Can I just get a round of applause, please, for Michael? Thank you.
Thank you.
And Michael, I just want you to be able to speak to just something really great you're working on right now. So
yeah. If you liked what I had to say, I just one of the charities, we have a foundation in our family. We support a lot of things: hospital research, girls, women's medical. We do a lot of things. This is just one example of something we do. It's called One Prosper. Basically, in the Thar Desert region in India, if you happen to have 2 daughters or more, you have a farm. They walk for water all day. They don't go to school. That's a very dangerous thing. So what I do is we fund this One Prosper Canadian charity who digs a tanka and puts a concrete bunker kind of in the ground, and it collects the water from the monsoons, and they fill it up once a year too. So the daughters no longer walk for water, and I pay for them to go to school, and I buy their bikes and their school uniforms. So they go to school on a bike and they get educated. I even buy them solar powered lights at night so they can do their homework. I put hundreds and hundreds of girls to school. I've never met them. I'm probably never going to go, but it's actually, I've seen the pictures literally of the girls that I put into school, and it's like, it really feel in my life I've done something. Like I feel like I'm doing something. So if you liked what I had to say, you got anything out of my talk, if you click that what is that QR code and give them $10, like that would be appreciated, and just talk about them. I mean, we can do things for people in this world. We can help. Imagine educating these girls, because we know what girls do when they learn to read. They behave differently. They educate their children, right? That motherhood thing is really important. But if we don't educate them, we don't show them the internet, we don't show them the world, they stay illiterate, and that's not a thing. That takes away their power. So this is really big. This is one of the number one things we do. We actually support a lot of hospital research here, and we buy stuff for the NICU at St. Mike's Hospital, and a lot of women's reproductive rights in Latin America. My wife's on the board of FOS Feminista, which is Planned Parenthood. You know, I think that my advice to you is, if you use a hospital here or you use anything, try to leave it better than you found it for the next person. Do something if you can. So I'd appreciate it if you give them $10 or whatever you want to do. Thank you.